Yeah, Jay, you are in the heights of for the first screening of this film being happening at Calicut and Vadagara.
Yes.
ഇപ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് റെസ്പോൺസസ് ഒക്കെ എങ്ങനെയുണ്ട്?
റെസ്പോൺസ് വളരെ നല്ലതാണ്. ആൻഡ് സത്യം പറയുകയാണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഞാനിതുവരെ ഈ സിനിമ ലാപ്ടോപ്പിലും മാക്സിമം ഒരു പ്രൊജക്ടറിലാണ് കണ്ടേക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ തിയേറ്ററിൽ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് കാണുമ്പോൾ സിനിമ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് കാണേണ്ടത്, ഇങ്ങനെ തന്നെ കാണണം എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഫീലിംഗാണ് എനിക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ആദ്യം. നമ്മൾ പ്രിവ്യൂ തിയേറ്ററിൽ പോയി ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോയല്ലോ DCP ഫയല്. അപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു 10-15 സെക്കൻഡ് നമ്മൾ കണ്ടപ്പോൾ ഞാനും എൻ്റെ കൂടെ എൻ്റെ അസോസിയേറ്റ് ഡയറക്ടർ ആൻഡ് കോ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ മയങ്ക് റായ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു ബോംബെയിൽ. രണ്ടുപേരും നമ്മൾ വി വർ റിയലി ഇമോഷണൽ ആൻഡ് വി ജസ്റ്റ് my first reaction was, this is how it should be watched. This is where people will understand what we have tried to make. Of course there are still flaws. The flaws are probably more projected even in a bigger way, but at the same time this is how cinema should be watched. And then of course അത് തിയേറ്ററിൽ കണ്ടപ്പോൾ ആൾക്കാരുടെ കൂടെ കണ്ടപ്പോൾ ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഫീലിംഗ് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. ഒരു ഹാളിൽ ആൾക്കാർ ചിരിക്കണു, റിയാക്ട് ചെയ്യണു, സബ് ടൈറ്റിൽസ് വായിച്ചിട്ട് ആൾക്കാർ ചിരിക്കണു. ബോംബെയിലും ഡൽഹിയിലും നാട്ടിൽ of course people are enjoying it a lot more because they are able to catch the flavor of it. Very, very exciting.
രണ്ട് തരത്തിലുള്ള അപ്രീസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ട്. ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് it has been to festivals and has bagged a few awards and now it is being screened for the public. അപ്പോൾ how was the response from the festival audience? That കാരണം അവരുടെ ഒരു receptiveness വേറെ അല്ലേ? They look for some aesthetic aspects, so right. How was that?
Yeah, to be very honest, the festival reactions have been mixed in the sense that we have a lot of rejections which came early in the festival journey. We had a slew of rejections and it was really heartbreaking because it really makes you question whether you have created something and whether you're right, about what you created. But then the Cincinnati festival happened, the Indian international festival in Cincinnati, where I think Muton has won the year before and other films have won. So that became a huge validation. ഈ ഫെസ്റ്റിവൽ മാത്രമായാലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഫീലിംഗ് വന്നു സത്യം പറയാൻ വെച്ചാൽ.
But what could have been the reason?
I think it eventually boils down to having a sales agent, having somebody to do your PR in the festival circuit, because the system is such that the same films go to all the festivals.
Right, that's right.
Because they're on top of the pile. We are somewhere in the bottom of the pile. We're a group of unknown people, not necessarily created anything apparently credible, or at least widely spoken about. Therefore, we are in that sense like the kids in the film Underdogs. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഫിലിം സിൻസിനാറ്റി ഫെസ്റ്റിവലിൽ പോയതിന് ശേഷം ആണ് ആക്ച്വലി പല ഫെസ്റ്റിവൽസിനും പിന്നെ Kenya Sports Film Festival, the Cult Classic Festival in Calcutta, and one of the most validating moments was for me personally was the Iran, the Rosh International Festival, 51st Rosh Festival, which celebrates films with educational value in a country like Iran, which is for me the kind of cinema that I've always enjoyed and loved watching. And subconsciously I've ended up making a film which is a children's film in that space. It was never a conscious decision of career of this is next or that is next. This is just a film that happened. But that was a huge validation to win the golden statuette. To the extent that to be very honest with you, I went online to check if it was correct, if this was not a some false mail or something like that, because I just couldn't believe myself. Because like I said, we're at the bottom of the pile. Right. Nobody's picked us up, and here we are at a festival where we are best film golden statuette. It was incredible. Yeah.
Superb. So this what we see or what we hear about festivals and the PR work, that's true, right?
Unfortunately, yes, it is true. It is true because see, the thing is, there are two sides of everything, and I understand as a filmmaker, I understand that film festivals are, they have so many entries that come in because they have to make it affordable, right? So therefore, everyone who's made a film is sending a film to the festival. So the screening process must be really arduous. Having said that, I do feel that festivals have to find a new way to also, watch, acknowledge films that haven't, like I said, that haven't made a buzz in all the big festivals. There are smaller films, that may have some merit, some department, children, cinematography, music, something. A film won an award for music at a festival in Florence. Anand was so excited because it was the first international award. I still remember കുട്ടികളുടെ എനിക്കൊരു മെസ്സേജ്, പല കുട്ടികളുടെ മെസ്സേജ്, പ്രിയദത്ത who plays Sitara in the film, she messaged me saying that എൻ്റെ thank you for taking me to the international stage. US-ൽ ഒരു ഫിലിം ഫെസ്റ്റിവലിൽ വടകരയിൽ പഠിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടി എത്തണമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് huge thing. So I think festivals have to be a little more creative in trying to see how they can break new grounds and open up to a wider spectrum.
So here Asif Kareem involved ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്. So how was that? How did that happen?
So that happened as a result of the Kenya Film Festival, actually. The Kenya Sports Film Festival, which Mr. Kareem is the founder of. And he, we spoke subsequently after the festival, of course, because I didn't know him before. But after the festival, when we spoke, he said, I watched the film and I read the synopsis, I was quite intrigued. And during the citation also, when he presented the award, he talked about how it's such a relevant film in Kenya. We won it at Kids Film Festival in the US as well. There also, the citation talked about the relevance of the film in the US. So Kenya, Iran, US, India, everywhere the conversation is about the universality of the subject. And Mr. Kareem being a sports person himself, again a huge validation, because this is not a Team A versus Team B film. This is just a Team A going to play cricket, അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഫിലിമിന് the fact that it has the values of sportsmanship, I think that is what really kind of drew him to it. And then, of course, when we were thinking of a release plan, we wanted to kind of do something different, do something new, do something special and thematic. Appo we reached out to him, requested him if he can, and he was, more than well, agreeable. Yeah.
So this is a universal subject. Could you mention what the film is about?
Sure. So the film is basically about a group of children who want to go out and play cricket with a new cricket kit they've got. സ്കൂളിൽ ഒരു കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് സോഷ്യൽ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടൊരു വർക്ക്ഷോപ്പ് നടക്കുന്നു. ആ വർക്ക്ഷോപ്പിൻ്റെ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് കുട്ടികൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്പോർട്സ് കിറ്റ് കിട്ടുന്നു. ആ സ്പോർട്സ് കിറ്റ് എങ്ങനെയാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാമെന്ന് കുട്ടികൾ ഡിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യണം. വീക്കെൻഡ് അവർ ഇത് ക്രിക്കറ്റ് കിറ്റായിട്ട് കളിക്കാൻ പോകും. ഓരോ വീക്കെൻഡ് ഓരോ ടീമിൻ്റെ അടുത്തുണ്ടാവും. ഫൈനലി അമംഗ്സ് ദ ടീംസ് ഒരു മാച്ച് ഉണ്ടാവും. അതിലത്തെ ആദ്യത്തെ ടീം മടപ്പള്ളിത്തെ ഒരു ടീമാണ്. ആ ടീം ഒരുമിച്ച് ഇങ്ങനെ കളിക്കാൻ ഇറങ്ങുമ്പോൾ അതിൽ പെൺകുട്ടികളും ആൺകുട്ടികളും ഉണ്ട്. 4 പെൺകുട്ടികൾക്കും ക്രിക്കറ്റിൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഓരോരുത്തർ, ഒരു കുട്ടിക്ക് പുതിയ ഡ്രസ്സ് വാങ്ങിക്കണം കളിക്കാൻ പോകുമ്പോൾ, അമ്മ പറയണു അതിന് നമുക്ക് പറ്റില്ല, നമുക്ക് വി ഡോണ്ട് ഹാവ് ദ സർക്കംസ്റ്റാൻസസ് ടു ബി ഏബിൾ ടു അഫോർഡ് ഇറ്റ്. മറ്റേ കുട്ടിയുടെ അമ്മ പറയണു വീട്ടിലത്തെ പണി ചെയ്തിട്ട് പോയാൽ മതി, ശരിക്കും ചെയ്തില്ലെങ്കിൽ പോകണ്ട. മറ്റേ ഒരു കുട്ടീൻ്റെ അച്ഛൻ പറയണു, ഒരു ആൺകുട്ടി, സാരംഗ് എന്നാണ് ക്യാരക്ടറിന് പേര്, സാരംഗിൻ്റെ അച്ഛൻ പറയണു കടലിലേക്ക് വാ, നീ ഈ കളിച്ചിട്ടൊന്നും കാര്യമൊന്നുമില്ല, കടലിലേക്ക് വാ, എന്നിട്ട് തൊഴിൽ പഠിക്കുക, ലേൺ എ വൊക്കേഷൻ. ബാക്കി പഠിപ്പും കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കും, പക്ഷേ ദാറ്റ്സ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നിട്ട് ഫൈനലി അവരെ ഇറങ്ങി കളിക്കാൻ പോകുമ്പോൾ വഴിയിൽ നാട്ടുകാർ നോക്കണം, ഇതെന്തത് ഒരു 11 പേര് ക്രിക്കറ്റ് കിട്ടി, അതിൽ പെൺകുട്ടികളും കളിക്കുമോ, പെൺകുട്ടികൾ കളിച്ചാൽ എന്താ പെൺകുട്ടികളോട് ചോദിക്കണം. അങ്ങനെ അതിന് ശേഷം ചെറിയ ചെറിയ ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഇൻസിഡൻസ്, അവരെ വാച്ച് കാണാണ്ടാവണം, പോലീസ് സ്റ്റേഷൻ പോകണം, അങ്ങനെ ഓരോന്നായിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ നടന്ന് അവർ കളിക്കാൻ പോകുന്ന കഥയാണ്. പാരലലി ശ്രീകാന്ത് മുരളി സാർ പ്ലേ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ലോയറിൻ്റെ ക്യാരക്ടർ ഉണ്ട്, അവർ അമ്മയായിട്ടാണ്, സാവിത്രി ചേച്ചി, വിച്ച് ഈസ് അബൌട്ട് there's a land related issue locally which he's kind of stuck in and he's trying to figure his way out, അപ്പോൾ that story progresses parallelly. ഈ 2 കഥകൾ പാരലലി നടക്കുന്ന സ്റ്റോറിയാണ്.
ഇത് ഇത്തരം ഫിലിംസിന് ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് കോണ്ടന്റ് ഈസ് ഗെറ്റിംഗ് എ ലിറ്റിൽ ക്രൗഡഡ്. ഐ നോ ക്വാളിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദ കോണ്ടന്റ് മാറ്റേഴ്സ്. വെരി റെയർലി ദർ ആർ സം ഗുഡ് കോണ്ടന്റ്. ഈവൻ മേക്കേഴ്സ് ആർ ഓൾസോ നോട്ട് ക്വൈറ്റ് ഷുവർ അബൌട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഇതിനൊരു തിയേറ്റർ സ്ക്രീനിങ്ങിൻ്റെ അപ്പുറത്തുള്ള പോസിബിലിറ്റീസ് എന്താണെന്ന് ആലോചിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
ഓ ഡെഫിനറ്റ്ലി. ഞാനിത് സിനിമ എഴുതുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഐ വാസ് വെരി ക്ലിയർ ദാറ്റ് ഈ ഫിലിം ഇസ് നോട്ട് ഡിസൈൻഡ് ആസ് ജസ്റ്റ് എ ഫിലിം ഫോർ എൻ്റർടൈൻമെൻറ്റ്. ബിക്കോസ് ഇതിൽ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പല റൈറ്റ് ടു പ്ലേ, ജെൻഡർ എക്വിറ്റി, ഏബിളിസം, ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ലിറ്റിൽ ഇഷ്യൂസ് ആർ ടച്ച്ഡ് അപ്പോൺ ഇൻ ദ ഫിലിം. അപ്പോൾ ദിസ് ഈസ് എ ഫിലിം ദാറ്റ് കെൻ ജസ്റ്റ് ആസ് വെൽ ബി ടേക്കിംഗ് ഇൻ ടു എ ക്ലാസ് റൂം or with a group of parents and have a pause and play kind of a conversation after you watch it. You watch it once for entertainment, okay, sure. Then you pause and play. What did Sitara say? വാട്ട് ഡസ് ദാറ്റ് മീൻ? ബിക്കോസ് കുട്ടികൾ ഇതിൽ പല കാര്യങ്ങളും കുട്ടികളാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അമ്മയും ഇവരെന്താ വെച്ചാൽ ഈ ക്യാമ്പ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, ഒരു ക്യാമ്പിൻ്റെ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് ക്യാമ്പ് സ്കൂളിൽ നടന്നു, ഒരു കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് സോഷ്യൽ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റീൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട്. അതിൻ്റെ ആ ക്യാമ്പിൽ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നാച്ചുറലി നമ്മൾ കുട്ടികൾ വീട്ടിൽ വന്നാൽ അച്ഛൻ അമ്മയോട് പറയില്ലോ, അപ്പോൾ അമ്മ വട്ടെന്ന് പറയാൻ പാടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ കാലഘട്ടം മാറി, കുട്ടികൾക്ക് അറിയാം, അമ്മമാർക്ക് അറിയില്ല. ഈ വട്ടെന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റാത്ത കാലം എന്നാണ് അമ്മ പറയണത്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനത്തെ കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മളതിൽ സോർട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇൻഗ്രെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് കഥയിൽ. സോ ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ഓൾവേസ് കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ഡിസൈൻഡ് ആസ് a film that hopefully, yes, theatre, then an OTT, but parallelly has a training room life also, shelf life also, you know, in schools, in colleges, spaces of where they discuss public policy, urban planning. So all of these spaces, the film can find its own kind of niche. So that was always the design.
But what's the strategy you have for reaching them to children? As in, see, kuttikalku say like in the last 2 years they have been with the handheld devices.
Yes.
So they know what's going around in film, what is going around in internationally. So what mode or what strategy you have designed idu kuttikalilekku ethikan vendi?
So right now our first leg of this outreach that we're doing for about 15-20 days, where Mr. Kareem is also a part, we are taking the film to select schools and cities in private screening spaces. So in Delhi we played at the India Habitat Center, Ahmedabad we are playing at Arthashila, Chandigarh we are playing in a school, Muradabad we are going to play in a school, Delhi we are going to play in a school. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ സ്ഥലത്ത്, of course Madapally will be showing it to the kids there. അപ്പോൾ ഓരോ സ്ഥലത്ത് ഓരോ സ്കൂളിൽ 1-2 സ്കൂൾസിൽ കാണിച്ചിട്ട് then from there we expect some kind of a movement further, that more schools will come forward, more schools, and especially in Kerala, because in other states language could be a bit of a barrier with a certain age group, but in Kerala we are expecting that we'll be able to do a more wider reach in schools, maybe with the help of the government, maybe with the help of the ministry and so on.
ഇതിപ്പോൾ യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ സബ്ജക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ആൻഡ് എനിവൺ ക്യാൻ റിലേറ്റ് ടു. എന്താണ് മലയാളം സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ളൊരു സാധ്യത എന്തായിരുന്നു?
സത്യം പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇത് മലയാളം സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള കാരണം അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സ്ട്രാറ്റജി ഒന്നും ആയിരുന്നില്ല. ഇത് മടപ്പള്ളി ഡ്രൂ മീ in many ways. The kids, the people, UL Foundation, the work they were doing there, and the fact that we had open entry into homes, people's lives, people's children who became a part of the film. That was a reason why this happened. അപ്പോൾ ആ സമയത്തും ഇൻഫാക്ട് ഐ റിമെമ്പർ നമ്മൾ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരു പിച്ച് പ്രോമോ ഒക്കെ ഷൂട്ട് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. 3 ദിവസം ഒരു ടെസ്റ്റ് ഷൂട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ട് പിച്ച് പ്രോമോ ചെയ്തിട്ട് when we were pitching it to producers, quite a few people said to me, do this in Hindi. No, why don't you do this in Hindi? But this film was designed to be a very authentic story, which has a sort of an impact beyond just what the film will be. It has an impact on, like I said, that girl when she messaged me saying that, thanks for taking me to the internet, that impact will not happen if I get 20 kids from 20 neighborhoods and put them into a film together, which is how typically a film is structured. And you do an audition in a hotel or a space, a lot of people come there, you pick 20 and you go and make a film. No, I wanted to make the film in Madapally, in a neighborhood, where the neighborhood was welcoming of us. The end credits of the film read, it takes a village to make a film. It does take a village to make a film. A film like this has to be rooted, in language, flavor, people, all of that. And from here on, we can now look at a Hindi version, a Gujarati version, a Telugu version, a Tamil version. That's the dream. That's the dream, to be honest. Because a coastal, North Kerala coastal story will be very different from a hilly story in Uttarakhand, or a story in the plains somewhere else. About there is a lot of possibility, and sports is incidental to the film. Sports is at the heart of it. It's not really. It can be football somewhere, it can be kabaddi somewhere else, it can be something else somewhere else. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ആണ് നമ്മളുടെ sort of planning ഉള്ളത്. Yes.
About the casting, you said Srikanth is there, even Kulur Mash has also acted. So how did you come up with such ideas?
So from the experience of having made been a part of a couple of feature films earlier in Hindi, I knew that it's very important, while one is trying to be idealistic in rooting of like keeping a film authentic and rooted, it's also important to mount a film a certain way, because what that does is it brings credibility to the overall project, because it's also a film project, it's a commercial endeavor eventually. So when we balance out 45 debutants with stalwarts like Kulur Mashe, Shrikant Murli, Savitri Jechi, Harish Peradi, Vigilesh, Sibi Thomas, I remember I was showing the trailer to somebody, oh, iyalundavile, oh, iyalundavile. Angane our reaction undallo. That will draw audiences
True.
to the theatre or to the OTT or wherever they have to watch it. മറ്റേത് ഓക്കെ 45-45 ഡെബ്യൂട്ടാൻസുള്ള ഒരു സിനിമ എന്നുള്ളൊരു കാര്യമാണ് അതിൽ. സോ that was a very conscious decision, and I was really fortunate that I had Rajesh Madhavan as a casting director. Rajesh, who's an actor also and has done tremendous work as far as casting is concerned. He was involved in both the Kuttigalde casting and the senior actors. He's the one who connected me to Shrikant Murli sir. I remember asking him on the very first day of shoot, have you ever been on such a small film set? And he said, no Ajay, this is the first time. And I couldn't help but ask why he chose to be a part of this. He just said, because what you're trying to do, I like what you're trying to do here. And I felt like Adana Bupre, in his BTS interview also, I was watching that interview, he said the same thing. This cinema parayana karyam valare important ayuru karyana, so I wanted to be a part of that. Similarly, Kulur Marsh has been a great support. We had done a short film together, which I hope to release soon as well. I mean, such an incredible talent, and his thing is, what I liked about him is, he didn't just say ender role in Dana. He's here for a small role. He knows that. But he wants to know what I'm making, And he had an input. I still remember. I don't know if he'll remember this, but he had a very critical input on the climax of the film, which I incorporated also. Similarly, Vigileshum, Sibi Thomas as the policeman, and Harish Peradi. Harish Peradi was a very important casting for me because he has a cameo. He has a real cameo in the film. And a cameo, ഞാൻ ഇന്ന് തിയേറ്ററിൽ കാണുമ്പോൾ ഇന്നലെയാണ് ഞാനത് ശരിക്കും ഫീൽ ചെയ്തത്. ബിക്കോസ് ഓരോ ദിവസമാകുമ്പോഴാണ് ഐ എം ഏബിൾ ടു വാച്ച് ദ ഫിലിം നൗ ആൻഡ് റിലാക്സ് ആൻഡ് വാച്ച് ഇറ്റ്. വെൻ ഐ വാച്ച്ഡ് ഹിസ് cameo, I remembered and I realized that I wanted a star for this. Because that guy is the hero. He's the one who's going to solve our problems. Then there are feeling right now. He brings that feeling on screen. It's such a small role. He's so impactful. So really blessed to have had all of these people. Yeah. And Shrikant sir was such an incredible. He shoots for Big Boss. He directs Big Boss. So he had a fixed schedule from and only available between Sunday to Thursday afternoon. And he said, but between this time, 24 hours. You have my 24 hours. You have all my time. And he said, Ajay, he spoke to the costume guy directly. Indana costume, indana look, you stay busy. I know you have other things to handle. This is my first phone conversation with him. Such an incredible support.
Ajay's background, how did you? Are you from a film background, or how did you come to films?
So I studied, in terms of studying. Yes, I studied literature, and I did a course in media studies, and then I did another short-term course in cinematography. I come from a very regular middle class family. My parents are government servants, but we are film buffs to the core. And surprisingly, it took me 4 years after my schooling to realize and remember that we are film buffs, and that's what I should do. That because we've always had film references at home, we've always talked in dialogues to each other. So much Hindi mostly, but still, we're avid film watchers at home, and all kinds of film, mainstream, commercial, art house, since my childhood. I grew up in the 80s, so whatever the NFDC was creating at that time, my parents were watching that. They were going to theatres to watch that. They were also going to theatres to watch mainstream stuff. I grew up in that kind of an environment, in a regular traditional kind of a home. But after I studied literature, after I did a course in media studies where I interacted with a film theory professor called Madan Gopal Singh, who's an incredible professor. His classroom, when I was sitting in his classroom learning film theory, is when it's kind of had a light bulb moment, and I decided I want to become a filmmaker. I want to write for films. And it began with documentaries initially. I did a lot of commissioned documentaries. I've done over 60 of them for various international and Indian non-profits. Started with a couple of short films, made my first feature in 2000, which released in 2014. Small murder mystery, a remand room based murder mystery called After the Third Bell. And thereafter, short films, music videos, line produced 2 Bollywood films, which completely changed the scope of my the direction of my career, because I suddenly was now in the midst of Bollywood, in the sense that I knew people in the industry, people knew me, I was able to do a short film which I mounted on a pretty big scale, and he's doing quite well on YouTube, in fact. Then I did music videos, and now, of course, all of this has led me to Madapally. Yeah.
Superb. You brought up outside Kerala.
That's right.
Obviously.
I'm born and brought up in Delhi.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I grew up because my parents have been in Delhi for about 40 years. So we speak in Hindi at home, the three of us, and my parents speak to each other in Hindi. Anganeyayirunnu. Of course, now that they've come back to Kerala, I spent a considerable amount of time here. We do speak in Malayalam, but Hindi is still kind of the language of preference in a sense between us. Yeah. And we kind of move between Hindi, English, and Malayalam when we speak.
Naturally.
Yeah.
So if you look at coming back to the films, to this film, ഒരു normal film goer, ഇപ്പോൾ so called action films like കടുവയൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, കുട്ടികളുടെ വേറെ ഫിലിം ഉണ്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ റീസെൻ്റ്ലി റിലീസ്ഡ്. സോ why do you think people should watch Madapally United?
I think the reason that comes to me on top of my mind is the children in the film. I think the way they have performed is outstanding, and I share that credit with Rajesh and the children, because to be honest, the biggest thing I could do in this film was to let the children be, to not direct them too much, and of course that means I have to have the right kids in the first place, right? For that, Rajesh gets all the credit, because he did such an incredible job of finding the exact Appus, Sitara, Sarang, and so on. The kids pick their own names, by the way, the character names they on their own. About that is, I think, the top of my mind. The second thing that I think is really working for everyone, and I'm really particularly proud of, is the music that Anand has created. The opening song, there are two songs in the film, and both the songs are just, I think, outstanding. Anand has done such a wonderful job of understanding what the film is and composing, and in fact writing lyrics for one of them. So that would be the second thing. And the third thing, I think, is just, it's a couple of reviews have already captured this, but I think it's a film that has an element of nostalgia in it. For anyone who has been excited about going out to play, which is not something you see very often these days, because people barely go out, and when they go out, there's no spaces to play. Both issues that are addressed by the film. I think if anyone വീട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് പുറത്തിറങ്ങി ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് പോകാണ്ട് ഒരു എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, ആ എക്സൈറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് ഫീൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ you'll enjoy this film, because that's what this film is about. It's not about whether you get there, whether you win when you get there, whether you lose. It's about going there. It's about going there together. It's about learning about each other, about other people along the way. So I think that is what these are probably the 2 or 3 things that I can think of. Yeah.
Well, could you explain ആരൊക്കെ ഇതിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള?
Sure. അപ്പോൾ ഇതിന്റെ writing and direction was me. I wrote the script and the screenplay, and the dialogues I collaborated with the Calicut-based author Shahina Rafiq.
Oh.
Shahina has worked on a couple of documentaries and films earlier. Shahina and I go back long way.
She has worked with Lijin, right?
Lijin, and she's worked on the KG George documentary.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic writer, a very good friend. We've known each other for many years. We used to teach together, take workshops in Calicut. That's how we first met in 2005 or 4, I think. And so Shahina helped me with because ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ എഴുതിയത് actually ഒരു sort of a positive time ആയിരുന്നു ആ സമയത്ത്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പെട്ടെന്ന് I kind of managed to write whatever I could in Malayalam, gave it to her. Both of us were pleasantly surprised that I did a decent job in Malayalam. But she had her inputs, which were very critical. She gave me some inputs. And then it went to Jay Krishnan, who is a Vadagara-based budding writer, aspiring writer. And Jay Krishnan അതിൽ ആ വടകര ഫ്ലേവർ അതിൽ കൊണ്ടുവന്നു. പിന്നെ പല ഡയലോഗ്സിലും അവിടുത്തെ ലോക്കൽ ഹ്യൂമർ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അതൊക്കെയും ചെയ്തു. പിന്നെ കുറച്ച് റെഫറൻസിങ്, ഐ നീഡഡ് സം റെഫറൻസിങ്. ലൈക്ക് ഹരീഷ് പേരാടീൻ്റെ ക്യാരക്ടർ വരുന്ന സീനുണ്ടല്ലോ, അത് പിന്നീടാണ് സിനിമയിൽ. പക്ഷെ ആ സ്ഥലത്ത് തന്നെ ഇരുന്നിട്ട് 2 പേര് ലെഫ്റ്റിനെ കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ആ റെഫറൻസിങ് ഒക്കെ നമ്മൾ ജയകൃഷ്ണൻ്റെ ഹെൽപ്പിലാണ് ഞാൻ ചെയ്തത്. ആൻഡ് മൈ അതർ ADs also were involved in that, I remember. Of course, the film is shot by Tanveer Ahmed, who is a cinematographer that I've been collaborating with for now over 15 years. All the way back to my first documentary till now. We've shot everything together.
Is it the first time he's doing a Malayalam?
It's the first time. No, actually, this is the first Malayalam feature he's doing for both of us. He's done a Malayalam short, which again he worked with me. He's done a Malayalam music video, again he did with me. Angane. Pinne, my associate director, who's also the co-producer, Mayank Rai, again from Bombay, he was here, and so that was on the production side of things. Pinne, the editor of the KP Krishna Prasadana. He's a Cochin-based editor. Again, KP and I go back almost 10 years. He's edited my first feature film, multiple documentaries, music videos, short films. And grading Chedada Srikumar Nairana. Srikumar is based here. He's an editor and colorist. Again, we go back 10 plus years, 15 years in fact. Pinne sound Chedada Surajana. Suraj was introduced to me through Rajesh. Music Chedada Anandana, who Srikumar introduced me. So basically, I had certain pieces of the puzzle already when I came to Kerala. The rest, my other collaborators here helped me. Akhil Namarnete, art director Anna. Of course, angane kore pere locally they got involved, and we sort of formed a team. Yeah.
Have any of the directors, any of the filmmakers influenced you?
Satyam Barancha, I don't think I'll be able to do justice, but I have, since I found out about the documentary. To watch the documentary, I watched 3 of KG George's films, which I really, really enjoyed. I watched very recently, Ammarian. I loved that film. I'd heard so much about it from Klur Masha, and an old friend of his, whom he met during the shoot of our short film after some 20 years. Koilandile ഒരു friend ഉണ്ട്, മുരളീധരൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അവർ മീറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ജോൺ ഏബ്രഹാമിൻ്റെ കഥകൾ കുറേ ഇങ്ങനെ പറയുമ്പോൾ I was quite intrigued, and I went and watched it. Of course, as a child, I watched a lot of Priyadarshini's film, Satyan and that's his film, and I really enjoyed that world and that easy kind of, which is like for my next film, which is a romantic comedy. I wouldn't say Satyan Andikar sir or Priyadarshan, but more like a Rishikesh Mukherjee, Sai Paranjpai, because that's the kind of cinema that I grew up watching more of. But that world has really kind of influenced me. Yeah.
And you just said about the future projects, so anything about that?
Yeah, so I've written a screenplay which is a Hindi film. It's a romantic comedy, and it's sort of in the pre-production stages right now. But it's a slightly bigger film in terms of scale, production, and so on. But it's probably going to be early next year that will happen. So in the interim, I've written a short film, which I'm planning on doing next. Other Hindi Lenyana. It's also a children's film in a sense. It's about a tailor and her granddaughter. I know in Kerala there's a distinction between short films and feature films, and once you make a feature film, I think you don't go back. But I don't see that distinction. I feel like I'm a storyteller. Some stories take 20 minutes, some takes 2 hours, so I kind of stay with the story. I don't think, of course, the scale of storytelling changes, but with the next short film, I'm mounting it on a scale. I know that even with a short film, it's very important to mount it on a certain scale. And there is a short film, Love Bites, film which I cast Harleen Sethi and Satyajit Dubey, who are well-known actors in Bombay. That allowed us to, now we are I think at 4+ million views on YouTube, because we mounted it that way. And it was kind of my film to Bollywood to say, hey, I can do this. We made it in 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute film, but to say it had song, it had romance, it has all of that. Just to say, please notice we can do this too. So the next one is basically the short, and then after that the feature, hopefully.
Superb. And all the best for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Rajesh Madhavan, he has been like ഇപ്പോൾ പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് കാസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ, ക്രിയേറ്റീവ് ഡയറക്ടർ പൊസിഷൻസിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ തിങ്കളാഴ്ച നിശ്ചയം വാസ് വൺ, Kanakam Kamini was another,
yes.
And many that I do not know, but his contributions visibly has been quite good. How did you come across him?
So Rajesh I met through a producer based in Cochin. She had introduced me to him, a producer and a director duo, Sharmila and Ritesh. They are based here, and they introduced me to Rajesh when we were making a short film called Jump Cuts. So Rajesh I had approached at that point for a role in that film. It's an anthology of 5 shorts. Appo adil oru short film le role na. Unfortunately the dates didn't work out, but he helped cast people for that short film, and that was the first time I worked with him as a casting director. when I was thinking of making Madapally, the first person I spoke to in Kerala was Rajesh. We sat in a cafe in Calicut near the beach, and I narrated the whole story to him. He liked it, and then we made a couple of visits to Vadagara, to the school, to an audition space, and anganeyana this journey began. And like I've already said, I mean, I think he's a fantastic talent as far as both an actor, which people have seen in Millar Murli and Android Kunjappan, so many films of his, but also I think as a casting director, he's very sharp. He's very, very sharp.
Yeah. Especially people who do not have film background, and he is grooming them.
Absolutely. That's a particularly difficult thing to do. So I think we did, because our full day workshop 90 കുട്ടികൾ വന്നിട്ട് അതൊന്ന് ഒരു എക്സാക്ട് 11 എനിക്ക് വേണ്ട ആ 11 പ്ലസ് 1-2 വേറെ ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സ് completely his job.
Ipo Vadagara and Kozhikode has been like പല കാര്യങ്ങളും മ്യൂസിക് they are very up to date and very അവരെപ്പോഴും എൻകറേജ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളുകളാണ്. സ്പോർട്സ് എസ്പെഷ്യലി ഫുട്ബോൾ അവർ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് എൻകറേജ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളുകളാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ബാക്ക് ടു ദ സെയിം ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ദാറ്റ് ഐ ആസ്ക്ഡ് ഇനീഷ്യലി, എങ്ങനെയാണ് ആളുകൾ ഇതിനെ റിസീവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന രീതി, എങ്ങനെയാണ് അവിടെ സ്ക്രീൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്?
ഞാൻ ഇതുവരെ കണ്ട് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായത്, people are really appreciating what the film is saying, and one of the very sort of overwhelming moments for me yesterday was when one of the parents came to me and said, നമ്മളുടെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഇത്തരം ടാലൻറ്റ് ഉണ്ട്, നമ്മൾക്ക് തന്നെ അറിയുന്നതാണ്. ആൻഡ് അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിലും അവർക്ക് എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ആലിയ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു കുട്ടി ഉണ്ട് ഇതിൽ. മദർ ഐ റിമെമ്പർ ഹാഡ് ടോൾഡ് മീ in 2019-20 when we met that ആലിയക്ക് കുറേ ഓഫേഴ്സ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ അവിടെ പോകണം, കാസർഗോഡ് അല്ല എന്താ പറയുക, ആലപ്പുഴ പോകണം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കൊച്ചി പോകണം, പറഞ്ഞയക്കാൻ പേടിയാണ്. ഷീസ് എ സിംഗിൾ മദർ. ഇത് മടപ്പള്ളിയിൽ തന്നെയാണല്ലോ, അപ്പോൾ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ പലരും ആ സിനിമയിലുള്ള പല പേരൻസും ആ ഒരു കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ദേ എക്സ്പ്രസ് ദാറ്റ് ഫീലിംഗ്. അതല്ലാണ്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ, ലൈക്ക് ഐ സെഡ്, ദർ ഇസ് ഡെഫിനറ്റ്ലി എ ഹിന്റ് ഓഫ് നൊസ്റ്റാൾജിയ. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു സമയം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ഇങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്തിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഫീലിംഗ് പലരും എക്സ്പ്രസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് ഓഫ് കോഴ്സ് വൺ ഐ തിങ്ക് വെരി ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് തിങ് ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് കുറച്ച് they were not expecting this. They went into the theatre maybe expecting a sports film. Maybe ഈ ടീം ആ ടീമിനെ തോൽക്കും, ആരാ ജയിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഫിലിമാണ് മേ ബി എക്സ്പെക്ട് ചെയ്ത് പോയത്. പക്ഷേ ഇങ്ങനെ നടന്ന് ഇടവഴി കൂടി നടന്ന് എവിടെയോ എത്തണ ഒരു കഥയാണെന്ന് ആരും പ്രതീക്ഷിച്ചില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതൊരു അഗൈൻ നല്ലൊരു ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ആയിരുന്നു. ഐ ഫീൽ ലൈക്ക് അതിൽ ശരിക്കും ആനന്ദിൻ്റെ ആ ഓപ്പണിംഗ് കഥപ്പാട്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു പാട്ടുണ്ട്. ആ പാട്ട് ശരിക്കും അതിൽ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്, ബിക്കോസ് ഇറ്റ് സെറ്റ്സ് ദ ടോൺ.
It's released the other day.
Yeah, it's released just recently. It sets the tone of the film. It tells you, and because I've, as a film theory student, teacher, learner, I genuinely feel like films give you the clues. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഫിലിമിൻ്റെ ഓപ്പണിംഗിൽ ടൈറ്റിൽ അല്ല വരിക, ഇറ്റ് സെസ് യാത്രയ്ക്ക് വേറെ കഥയില്ല, the journey itself is a story. That is your biggest clue to what you're going to witness. So the audience has to catch that, and adine this song helps. This song really helps, and then kind of you ease into the film.
Very well thought of, I think.
It's definitely, I mean, again, for the song, complete credit to Anand. We struggled with a little bit with the lyrics to get the lyrics. Then Anand himself wrote the lyrics. Called me one day. I was in Cochin that day, I remember, and he called me and he hummed the song, tune and the lyrics. I was blown away. I've had the pleasure of working with some music composers who create songs which come across as if they were made before the film was made, and the film cannot be made without them. So Anand is, in addition to that list of 2 or 3 composers that I worked with. It was an incredible thing.
Quite exciting actually, the whole journey. Arjun Radhakrishnan is a lately he has been quite a pan-India star. I don't know whether you watched Pada.
Okay.
Pada
was he in Sri Lanka?
Yes, exactly.
I did a special screening of Sri Lanka in Dehradun.
Oh, really?
Sandeep is a friend. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Arjun is a actor in that. So Arjun we have been discussing about the kind of films, and so he was saying like, take the authenticity outside the space, as in like you said, this is originally Madapally,
Yes,
and
yes.
and bringing back the nostalgia and taking that outside globally.
Right.
So it happens to be a universal subject. So I was relating to that when
Yeah,
you were talking about
yeah.
this. So that way, it seems like I can relate to, even though I'm yet to watch the film. So I'm really eagerly waiting for this film to come onto OTT, and then people should encourage
So
such films. And
just today we have taken the leap of faith, and we're planning on doing one show each this Saturday, Sunday in Lulu Mall, Kochi.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure that out. Srikumar is helping me with it. I'm talking to somebody else. So hopefully we'll have one show each in Kochi this Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
I'll definitely, of course, let you know.
Yeah,
And,
please. Quite inspiring, because see, what I do basically is like with this YouTube portfolio is like having conversations with inspiring people. So
Right.
this is something quite inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Let Madapally United and further films to come go across the globe. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.